And welcome to my workshop today, the 5 brutal barriers to scaling and how to break through. We'll just give a moment for everybody to join. We've got a large group today, 171 have registered their interest through LinkedIn events. So really looking forward to getting together with you all. So just bear with me for a moment. Okay, so we've got a group of you here now. Just give me one more second. Okay, so look, we might jump in now, I think. I'll just share my screen. And once again, welcome to my workshop today. And the workshop, see the phone, the workshop is entitled The 5 Brutal Barriers to Scaling and How to Break Through. This is going to be really interactive. And what we'll do today is work through a bit of theory, but I've got a number of tools for you to work through. We'll work through together. So why does this matter? I suppose that's the first question. The average CEO founder really doesn't own their own business. The business actually owns them. That's a trap most founder CEOs fall into when scaling. And guaranteed you're not alone. And the fact that we've got 171 people who express interest, all of whom are founders and CEOs, or the large majority, in this workshop today, just shows how you are not alone. So what we're covering today comes from working closely with CEOs who were stuck in the weeds, constantly firefighting, didn't have a clear growth strategy, just busyness, and were exhausted from doing the heavy lifting alone. This workshop is based on a proven system that helps leaders build a scalable business that works without them, clarify their ideal client and how to attract more of them, create a leadership team that shares the load and drives performance, helps you design a simple strategy that you and your team can actually execute, increase margins, scale revenue, and improve cash flow, and reclaim their time for leadership, growth, and life. You'll walk away with practical tools to identify what's keeping you stuck and a step-by-step blueprint to break through. This isn't just about theory. It's building a self-managing, profitable business that you're proud of and finally getting your life back in the process. So let me just check the chat. Yeah, Tim, you will be given a copy of these slides, absolutely. And the workbooks will be provided to you as well. Okay, and the workbooks will be put into the chat when we get around to working on them. Okay, so let's start with a bit of a war story. Let me tell you about Hilton. Hilton had built a very successful NDIS business from scratch. His clients loved him and his company. Revenue was strong, but behind the scenes, he was doing it all. Sales, strategy, client fires, team issues. He couldn't take a real break. Even weekends were spent catching up. We're talking about a business that had grown to 250 staff, so a significant business. His team waited for his decisions. Growth had stalled. He had a business, but it owned him. When we started working together, we mapped out his biggest bottlenecks, his biggest pain points, and restructured his leadership rhythm and simplified his office. Within months, his team had stepped up. His margins had increased, and he took his first real holiday in 4 years, and the business kept running. Hands up if that feels familiar. Yeah, a lot of you. You're about to discover the 5 biggest barriers keeping founder CEOs stuck and the exact playbook we use to break through. So the barriers, the 5 brutal barriers. You're still the bottleneck. In other words, a lack of delegation and systems. You've grown your team, but you've got the wrong people or the people in the wrong seats. You have no clear roadmap. You're flying blind without a strategy. You have flatline growth. You maxed out your current model, and you're stuck in the weeds. No time for high leverage work. Now, you may be suffering from one or all of these. So how do we fix it within my business, Scale Up Growth? What I've built is a concept called the finished business model, a self-managing business that can work without the founder. There are 6 pillars in here: empowered CEO, strategy and planning, team and culture, execution, operations and systems, Sorry, there's an area in that slide. Growth, marketing and sales, and cash and profit. Within each of these pillars, there are multiple tools and frameworks and playbooks that I share with my clients to help them overcome the brutal barriers you face to scaling. So the first one of these is the finished business habits checklist. I've coached over hundreds of CEOs and also their leadership teams. In most cases, I found that most CEOs don't need more tactics. What they need is a better operating system for how they lead and scale. Over the years of coaching founder CEOs, we've identified the essential habits that drive a self-managing profitable business. Those habits now live in one simple tool, the finished business habits checklist, which I'm going to show you in a moment. What is it? It's a 24-point checklist built around the 6 pillars of a finished business, ones I just showed you. And those pillars being the empowered CEO, strategy and planning, team and culture, execution, operations and systems, growth, marketing and sales, and cash and profit. So what it does, it helps you assess your business health at a glance, shows you exactly where to focus your leadership energy, and becomes your scoreboard for progress every quarter. If we don't measure, nothing changes. If your score isn't close to 72, your business still depends on you. But every habit on this checklist can be built, trained, and systemized. So let's find out where you're strong and where you're stuck. Okay, can you please jump into the chat? I've posted a link to the workbooks, and let's just open that up and go to the first page, the finished business habits checklist. Build a business that works without you. I'll share it on screen now. Okay. Can someone give me a thumbs up that you can see that? See my screen, please? Eric, thank you very much. Okay, so this is a checklist. It's, as you'll see, it's over a couple of pages. It's got 6 areas, and we allow you to record your total score. And what we're looking for is for you to score on the basis of 3 points fully done. This is nailed. We do it consistently. 2 points in progress. We've started, but it's not consistent yet. 1 point, not yet. We don't have this in place. So what I'd like you to do, either quickly print this off, or you can just put it down on a piece of paper next to you. Just rank every one of these questions based on 1 to 3. And I'll give you 5 minutes or 4 minutes to rank them. It shouldn't take you that long. Okay. If you've got any questions, please just come off mute or throw them into the chat. Thank you. Yes, so look, the superpower zone, or some call it other terms, but essentially it's what is it that you love doing and what is it that you're really good at doing? This is where you, as an individual and as a founder, should be focusing. I'll give you an example. One of my clients who's been with us for a while is really not the best day-to-day manager. Managing meeting rhythms, one-on-ones, etc., just isn't really his superpower. So what we've done is we've appointed a leader to run the day-to-day, and he focuses on his superpower, which is R&D, acquisitions, bolting on new product suites to enhance the business. And this client's been with me for a while now. We started about 8 million revenue, and we're now at 24. But based on the work that he's doing with the R&D for new products and acquisitions for new product suites, we are confident this business will hit $100 million revenue within 3 years' time. Does that help? Okay, great. Do you need a coach? Yeah, good question. I think every leader needs a coach or an accountability partner or a mastermind group, someone to hold you to a higher standard. Bill Gates is famous for saying everybody needs a coach. And it's fascinating that Eric Schmidt and Steve Jobs had the same coach at the same time, helping them scale and grow the business. So whether it's a mentor, a coach, a mastermind group, or an accountability partner, yeah, I strongly believe you need one. consistent quarterly and annual planning rhythm. Absolutely. I recommend, and in fact, I execute with my clients, that we either, with my high-end clients, we take the leadership team away for 2 days every quarter. And with my one-on-one and mastermind clients, we do a quarterly planning day every quarter where we go through a series of rhythms, identify the KPIs or update KPIs, identify OKRs, objective key results for the business. Oops, there's my 5 minutes. I'm going to go over just a second. Yeah, we review people, talent assessment, training, coaching needs. We look at what we should stop doing, what we should start doing in the business, and a whole series of other things. 1 more minute. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is total up your scores. Okay, remember 3 points fully done, 2 points in progress, 1 point not yet. Let me know if you could put a thumbs up in the chat. Tally your scores, that'd be great. Let's have a look at your scores. Can you throw it into your chat what your score is? Thank you. Sally, 62, that's great. That's a surprising high score for someone who's coming along to these webinars. Normally, mid to high 30s is probably where we start. And that's why this seminar is so valuable, because we can provide you some tools, but also perhaps have a conversation later about where you're stuck, where your pain points are, and I can provide you some frameworks to help you. Okay, so I recommend that this checklist should be completed quarterly and in your quarterly planning, because if you think about it, the low numbers, you can track progress, you can track increased performance, you can set your leadership priorities for the next quarter, and it will accelerate your independence. Okay, so was that helpful? I hope that as a starting point to work out where you are, at least that will give you an idea of where areas you need to work on. Yeah. Andrew, thank you. Yeah, no, it's a surprisingly simple but very effective tool. Okay, let's now jump into the actual barriers. Bear with me for a minute. I'll share my screen again. The number one barrier to growth. Yeah, if we go back here, you're the bottleneck. Lack of delegation and systems. Okay. So symptoms, you're the decision maker. Everything runs through you. You approve every proposal, manage every crisis, and your team can't move without your sign-off. You build a business that can't run without you, and it's burning you out. How many of you feel that way? Yeah, a lot. I get it. What are the checklist items here? This barrier shows up in the Empowered CEO section of the Finished Business Checklist. I've got a whole series of playbooks and tools to help you overcome this. But essentially, no clear delegation structure, no time protected for strategic work, no second in command to share the load. As a case study, when I first started working with Jane, she was a definition of essential. Her clients needed her, their staff leaned on her. She was the business. She just couldn't grow without cloning herself. That was a problem. And it got to a stage when she reached out to me. She actually reached out on the basis that she wanted to sell the business. It was just got to her. And, we sat down and worked towards building a business that could be sold in 3 years' time, because it doesn't happen that doesn't happen quickly. Along the way, the things we did, we mapped her time, identified the real value she brought, and she started handing off everything else. Literally 3 months later, she took a 10-day holiday and the business didn't miss a beat. A year down the track, she's loving business. She's loving it. And the business is growing. She's building a leadership team, and it is totally different to where she was at the time. And please don't feel, what's that saying, no man has an island? Most of my clients, when they start with me, they come with a number, if not all, of these pain points, and they feel stuck and they feel stressed and not happy with the family. You'll see with some of these tools, they're very simple. And it's, as I said, this is an introductory webinar. We'll show you some of the tools to help you get out of the mud. So what's the solution here? You need to step into your superpower zone. That means building systems, delegating outcomes, not just tasks, and empowering your team to solve problems without you. So you focusing on your superpowers and building a team around you that can do the rest. who have unique abilities that complement your superpower. A tool here, the finished business have a checklist, which we just did. And another tool I'm going to show you now, you're the bottleneck. So just bear with me for a moment. So you're the bottleneck. As I said, by the way, all these tools and this presentation will be provided to you. And a recording of me doing this as well. God help you. So you're the bottleneck. It's a self-assessment tool to identify where you're still involved and how to start letting go. The idea with all of these is that you can build something, a plan to fix one element of these within 90 days, hopefully shorter. The first step is to build a list. Bottleneck indicators, tick any that may apply. In this case, do most key decisions require your input? Are you in meetings all day? Do you approve most proposals, quotes, or hires? Does your team ask you for help constantly? Do you feel guilty taking time off? And without you, does the business slow or stall? So I'm going to give you 5 minutes here, okay? Take my time. What I want you to do is step 2 and step 3. So list 3 tasks or decisions you're currently doing that someone else could take on with the right support and training. That will significantly save you some time. And then I want you to choose one of the tasks of that 3 and complete the table below. The key here is deadline 30 to 60 days. So one task to delegate. Who are you going to delegate it to? The support that person needs, and a target day. Okay, begin. Cynthia, I think you should pick a task or decision that will save you, call it 2 to 3 plus hours a week. That will give you a significant block of time that you can then work on the business. Make sense? Great. Bruce, yeah, look, hiring a bookkeeper is a classic here. Can't tell you the number of times thinking about that one of my clients in the early days, I'd get emails at 3 o'clock in the morning because I knew he was awake doing the books and looking at his numbers. Yes, look, I think a key thing here is that we're looking for you to totally delegate responsibility for something. The fact in your business that you feel totally responsible for account management. Well, how are you going to scale it if that's you? How do you scale the business? This could be a future hire. It could be redeploying someone within your own team, or delegating part of that to free up time for you to work on the business. Okay, just coming up to 5 minutes. Okay, fine. Was that helpful? I know it's a very simple tool. Okay, so the goal here, on a different piece of paper, please, write down 1 to 3 tasks or decisions that you're currently doing that someone else could take on with the right support and training that you're going to hand off this quarter. Okay, this quarter. Each one of these should free up multiple hours a week so you can work on the business. Okay, and so that's an interesting point, that working on the business. A lot of my clients find it very hard initially to work out how to do that. In a separate training I'm going to record in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to talk about how to actually manage your time as a CEO founder. Things like theming days, marketing, meetings, one-on-ones, things like batch processing, things like how do you prioritize your time? What are good models for prioritizing yours and your team's time? Things like, going back to blocking off bulk hours to eat that from, to focus on the work, the big pieces of work that you need to focus on. So that's one that's going to be coming up. Okay, let's look at the second barrier to growth. Oh, sorry, wrong. That's the tool. Second barrier to growth. You've outgrown your team. So let's go back up here again. You've outgrown your team. So you've got the wrong people or people in the wrong seats. One of the things about growing a business and scaling a business is that the needs of the business change over time. The People you had when you started may not have the skills to be in the growth roles they're in. Their roles changed. They may need perhaps not even to be with the company, which is harsh decisions a CEO has to make. The barrier to growing is you've outgrown your team. As I said, the business has evolved, but your team hasn't. There are gaps in capability, accountability is vague, and you're constantly pulling people up and redoing their work. You're loyal, but loyalty isn't leadership. So checklist items, this comes up in the team and culture section pillar of our framework. The right people are not in the right seats. Their values aren't consistently lived out, or the values that they're living are not consistently lived out for your company values. And A players aren't the standard. And A players, what are A players? High living the values of your business and high on productivity in their role. Case study, Eric, a client, ran a successful manufacturing company, but his leadership team was a legacy team, long-time employees who couldn't keep up. This is a company that grew when we started from about 12 to about 60 in the space of 2.5 years. We used my ABC playbook framework to assess and reposition staff. Within 90 days, he had promoted one rising star, let go of two misaligned managers, and hired an operations manager who transformed delivery times. It was hard, but after the fact, the whole team was relieved, including the two misaligned who left the business, and he helped them find other roles. So the solution, use the core values and productivity matrix, upgrade who you have, redeploy where needed, and let go of the rest. You can't scale your business if you're carrying dead weight. So a high level, let me show you a high level tool again. Lots of work in this workshop. You've outgrown your team, okay? So the idea here is to use this tool to assess your team against performance and values and plan action to train, coach, redeploy, or exit. Now, this is assuming that you already have scorecards in place for your team. Yeah, if the team don't know how to measure their success and you haven't built in KPIs for them, you haven't given them a mission statement for their role, you haven't given them quarterly OKRs, objective key results, it's very hard. Well, you can't hold them accountable for bad performance if they don't know what their criteria are. So if that's a situation in business, reach out to me and I'll share a framework about building scorecards with missions and capabilities and KPIs for each role and show you how to do that. Okay. I've also got a whole pile of tools and frameworks on a CEO scorecard to track and manage performance and KPIs of leadership teams, OKR, planners and trackers, and loads more stuff. And when you need, if you do need to, in fact, to redeploy people outside of the business, I've got a whole series of things that I can help you with there. Okay, so it's recommended that a CEO can only have A player. That's a wrong wording. Only has A players on the teams. This team assessment, and what I'd like you to do now is have a look at the assessment above. So you notice on the left-hand vertical, core values. Do they live the core values most of the time, some of the time, or none of the time? And then on the bottom horizontal, performance in their role. Are they exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, or are they below expectations? So what I'd like you to do is pick 3 members of your team, any 3, and just map them onto this matrix for me. We're going to do this quickly. 3 minutes. Yes, Tim, look, this is an updated matrix. I used to have 0 to 10, but it was very hard for people to really make a decision 0 to 10 on living the core values, an example. So I've changed the matrix to none of the time, some of the time, most of the time. It just seems to be an easier way of describing it. And my clients and other CEOs I talk to find it easier to rate their people this way. You just put initials in each box. If someone meets expectations of performance and core values most of the time, put them in the top center box and just put the initials there. Okay. So what I now want you to do is we're going to map A, B, B, C, C. Okay. An A player is someone who most of the time meets core values most of the time and meets or exceeds expectations on performance. A B player is someone who most of the time lives to the core values, but below expectations on performance. So in that, the meets expectations area. A BC player toxic is a toxic some or none of the time meeting the core values, but it's high performance. This is typical of a salesperson who will screw over all of the team members, their teammates, to actually get a sale. So that's why we call it toxic. And then the C player is low on core values and low or medium performance. So I just want you to throw those three you mapped up above and map them into this table below. You just take a minute to do that. Give me a thumbs up when you've done that. Thanks. Okay, so the next thing is, what's your action plan? Do you train, coach, redeploy, or exit the person? So for all non-A players, well, actually, sorry, that's not true. For all players, what we want to do is determine what support or change is needed. Do they need to be do they need training, skill, or a process gap? Do they need to be coached, behavior, mindset, or accountability? Do they need to be redeployed somewhere else? In other words, they're in the wrong seat in the business. Or if they're a BC player, do they need to be exited? BC or C, do they need to be exited? They're not aligned, no future with your business. So just write the three that you identified, the issue identified, the action, what's your due date? Okay, I'm going to wrap this up in a moment. Yeah, I used to try and set a time on screen and everything else, but I've now, I don't think you can see this. I've now got a really basic timer that works a cracker. That's the manual timer. Okay, hopefully that helped you. The goal here is when you leave here is to go and map this for all of your team. And the goal is to do this every quarter. This is a strict rhythm that we put in place with my clients where we are forever, every quarter, looking at every single team member and mapping out a plan to train, coach, redeploy, etc. Okay. And we keep track of where they're going. So if we've got someone who's an A player that goes to B player and maybe down, up again, one of the things that we find is it highlights issues that we may not be aware of. One of our clients, very good performers, really dropped off, but no one knew that. So what we were able to do was put a support plan in place for the team member to get them through that. One of the other things is that just because someone's an A player in one of your leaders' perspective does not mean necessarily an A player in another leader. So we actually do this as a team, as a leadership team, to look for anomalies. Okay, so your homework here is to do this for your entire team and to put in place a plan to train, coach, redeploy, etc. for this quarter. You obviously won't be able to exit C players or toxic players within at least in Australia, within 3 months because of employment legislation. And we would do this absolutely in a way that is, what's the word, keeps the team member, if someone's going to be exited, that they leave with dignity. It's such an important part. So if you're wondering how to assess the team more, I've got a couple of great tools which we use to decide whether or not a B player, someone who is in the middle ground, meets expectations of performance, maybe values some of the time, most of the time, but they're not an A player in that top right quadrant. I've got some great tools for you to understand, to help you assess whether or not the person should you stay and encourage, or should they be perhaps moved to a different role or exited over time. Okay, next. Let's go back to my workbook. The next two, because I wanted to make this workshop 50 minutes, I am not going to cover these next two. I'm not going to provide you the actual tool today, but they are available if you'd like them. So barrier number 4, flat or fragile growth. So symptoms, you hit a ceiling, leads are inconsistent, sales rely on you personally perhaps, and marketing is mostly word of mouth. Growth is either flatlined or dangerously dependent on a few channels or clients. Very common with potential for people who are reaching out to me at the moment, given the state of the economy over the last, 3 years or 5, 6 years, really. Talk of tariffs, knock-on effects from that. I have clients who import significant capital items that are being brought in from overseas, and for instance, in one case, capital are relying on parts from China but being assembled in the US, so they're getting hit with significant tariffs coming into the US from China, and then another tariff coming into Australia. Lots of reasons for flat, fragile growth. So it shows up in growth and sales. A lot of the time, there's no consistent lead gen system, low conversion rate or unclear offer, no scalable marketing engine, or in some cases, not even understanding who your ideal client profile is. I'll give you an example of one of my clients. Jim ran a SaaS company that grew really fast, but then plateaued. So what do? We focused on clarifying his ideal client and repositioning the core offer, moving from a business where 90% of the business was $30,000 programming deals that weren't recurring, to moving to an enterprise model where the average recurring business per year is 300,000. And what happened was revenue started climbing again and churn dropped by half within 2 quarters. Significant change. The solution was to get clear on who you serve, why they buy, and how to reach them, and build repeatable marketing and sales systems. Scale starts with predictability. And one thing to keep in mind, I don't have a slide on this here, but generally, people will buy about 2 to 3% of your ideal client profile will buy from you within the next 3 to 6 months. 47 to 49% will buy from you within the next 2 years. 50% will never buy from you. The key is, number one, that 1 to 3% who will buy from you in the next 3 months is actually having offers out there so they can buy from you. And then for those who are going to buy within the next 2 years, have a drip education program going so that when they're ready, they'll know to come to you and not someone else. And this is a classic example of what I'm doing today. A lot of you have never dealt with me before at all. A number of you, quite a few of you, have been on my list for 3, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I quite often find that new clients of mine come to me when they've been following me on my LinkedIn, in my email list for multiple years. And they get to a stage where the pain just gets too much and they stick their hand up. And that's why I run a webinar like this every month, to keep myself front of mind with my ideal client profile. Interesting lesson for your business. Very happy to help you if this is a pain point for you. Okay, so the final barrier is the machine is broken. Yeah, every day is a fire drill. There's no consistent rhythm. Processes are missing or outdated, and KPIs aren't tracked or understood. Even when things go well, a lot of the time you're not sure why. So this fits within the execution operations systems and cash and profit area of pillars of my business. One of the things we put in place straight up is a weekly team rhythm at all levels of the business. And we track the key KPIs and OKRs, red, yellow, green. And we give visibility to the whole business about where things are going well, and where things are going badly. And where things are not green, yellow is we're behind, but we have a plan. Red is we're behind, but we don't have a plan. We track it and we work on it every single week. Many businesses don't have documented SOPs. And I'm not talking about folders this thick. I'm talking about checklists and descriptions that people can follow, and where we start getting quality of execution. A lot of the time, profit margins are unclear. What do you think is an adequate profit margin? I reckon 10% is the minimum you should be aiming for. And We're aiming to get up in my clients' profit margins to mid-20s and higher. And performance dashboards. I mentioned red, yellow, green indicators. Do a search on me for the CEO dashboard, where we define what the key KPIs for the whole business are, revenue, profit, etc. We define the North Star of the business, the key thing to track, or one or two things to track. And we define the 3 to 5 KPIs for each member of the leadership team. Look it up. There's a free download of the CEO dashboard there. Short dashboard case study again. So Wayne was great at sales, but his operations were chaos. We implemented a weekly meeting with him, which include issues lists, to-do lists for the leadership team, plus dashboards, and we documented his 5 top workflows. For the first time, his team was aligned, issues got solved early, and delivery didn't fall apart under pressure. Yeah, so the solution: build operational muscle, rhythm and dashboards and SOPs equals a business that runs like clockwork without chaos, and means that you as a CEO can actually step back, work on the business, and, God help us, take some time off FAMs and spend time with family and spend time on things that you love doing that you've been neglecting. Okay, so they're the 5 barriers, key barriers, but there's obviously a lot more behind this to scaling your business and how to break through. What I'd like you to do now is take a couple of minutes to fill this form in. This is something I do after every coaching session. What did I just learn? And by the way, it's picking the number one thing. So pick the key thing you learned. What are you excited to implement? What does done look like? And what are the actions to get this started and moving? 3 to 5 actions. Because I'm looking for you to implement on these this quarter. Just spend 3 to 4 minutes completing this for me. Thank you. So this form is particularly for the right next thing for you to do. But out of those 5 barriers, you may have one right next thing to do for each of the barriers. So when you're finished here, before you jump straight back into work, fill in one of these worksheets for the right next thing for every one of the barriers we've been through today. And then build it into your projects for this quarter. And remembering delegation is a key part of it. You don't have to do it all yourself. Okay. So there we go. How long do I promise you? Yeah. Sorry, we're about 3 minutes over. I do apologize. So I'm not going to hold you. I'll stick around for any questions. As I said, we will send to you a copy of the recording and also the workbook and also the toolkit. If I can help anybody in any way, no obligation, please don't hesitate to contact me. You'll see here at the bottom of the presentation, you can download the Finished Business Blueprint. Just email me if you haven't got it out of the chat, email me at my email address there and request the blueprint. Very happy to do a complimentary business growth call where we'll uncover one bottleneck that might be holding you back and help you build a plan. And hey, listen, please subscribe to my podcast. I put something like this up every week, normally a 10-minute teaching for CEOs. And I also every week interview a CEO of a scaling company, and some of the lessons in there are absolutely phenomenal. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. And I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you. Cheers.